Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Relationships. For today's video I've got two very interesting stories for you guys. One of them has an update. But before we begin, don't forget about Lost Genre AITA Daily, a channel dedicated exclusively to Am I the A-hole? So let's get started with the first story. This one's from user ThrowArray572859. Am I being unreasonable for not wanting my sister back in my life after she stole my boyfriend and abandoned me first? Myself, 37 female, and my sister, 26, had a traumatic upbringing. Not going into details there, our parents were unfit to take care of my sister anymore when she was around 13. Since none of our other relatives wanted to take her, it fell on me to take custody over her. I love my sister, even now, but I can't lie and say there was no resentment even back then. It hurt that I had to juggle the infancy of my career with the moodiness of my teen sister along with all the responsibilities that came with taking care of another person when I could barely take care of myself. The fact that she got to get out of the situation before she reached 18, a privilege I didn't get to have, contributed to my resentment. It didn't help that she had delinquent tendencies that often had me going around town picking her up from trouble. A couple years after she moved in with me, my longtime boyfriend at the time moved in to help me out as well. He was much better at handling her mood swings and keeping her behavior stable. He was the most important person to me at the time. He encouraged me in my career and helped keep me happy even though my life wasn't exactly at the place I wanted it to be at the time. I honestly thought we were gonna get married. Then, a couple of weeks after my sister turned 18, they left me. Both of them just up and disappeared with each other one day. They robbed me of my car and some of my other belongings and vanished without a word. Needless to say, I was devastated and it took years of support from friends and therapy to accept what had happened. Very recently, however, I wanna say a month ago, my sister just suddenly reappeared. After 8 years of nothing, she found where I was living and messaged me about wanting to speak. I accepted her offer to meet up and she came over for a coffee. It was eerie seeing her again. I assumed I was never going to see her again, so she was more or less dead to me. She told me a lot about what she felt now and what she was feeling back then. The gist is, she understands she made a lot of mistakes, but she doesn't want to lose the only family she has. I'll be blunt and say I wasn't receptive to what she was saying. I finally let out a lot of the resentment I had towards her, and the anger I felt when she took the person I loved away from me. My rant at her ended with me basically saying that she already walked away from her family and she was dumb for thinking I was just gonna waste all these years waiting on her. She seems to have understood, so she left again. That was that, and I again haven't heard from her since. My current boyfriend thinks I should have tried harder with her, but in my eyes she's a grown-a woman and no longer my responsibility, nor am I someone who can fix her. He said plain and simple that he thought I was being unreasonable and how he's pretty annoyed with me. So I guess now I'm here to get more assessments. So now let's go take a look at some community comments with advice for OP, and then we'll take a look at an edit from OP. Tanjiro24 says, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what you want. If you don't want a relationship with her anymore, then those around you will have to accept it. Of course, you could talk to her and give her a chance to be present, but you absolutely don't need to. People judge based on what they would do or want, and not on how the actual person might feel or want. Then Darklighter11 says, you're sure he didn't groom her? It sounds like they had planned to leave when she was still a minor. And to this, Small Town Mortician adds, this, a grown man that was supposed to be taking care of you both stole away with her the moment she turned 18. Being abused and vulnerable, she would have been very easy to manipulate. And finally, Tango Mango 22 says, are your sister and your ex-boyfriend still together? I presume they're not, but if they are, she's even more dumb to think you'd want to see her or him again. And to this, Canada is Noobs says, she might have been groomed. The boyfriend sounds like absolute trash. Seriously, right after she turned 18, he just up and left with her? I don't know if you involved the police, but what they did is horrific. And now let's go through OP's edit. My ex was 29 when he moved in with me. I don't believe it was possible he was grooming her. I was with him before my sister moved, so I knew him before she was a factor. My sister and him are no longer together. She did try to apologize. To be frank, I don't forgive her. My boyfriend is annoyed because of some personal family drama of his own that my situation reminds him of. I'm not breaking up with him over this, and he treats me generally well. My sister didn't ask for anything when we saw each other. She just talked about everything from then and a little bit of what she's been doing. I didn't report them at the time they robbed me because I guess some part of me was hoping they'd come back after it all. So the question now is simple. What do you guys think OP should do? Should she go back and forgive her sister or not? And now let's move on to the next story. This one is from user throwaway8653568. Just found out my 23 male best friend 23 male has been secretly dating my ex 24 female for months. Cassie and I were together for 5 years. We started dating in high school and stayed together through college, moved in together after graduation. I've been in love with her since before our first date. She's amazing, I still think so. We were talking about marriage and starting a family soon. Then one day, a few months ago, Cassie wanted to talk, sat me down and said she decided she doesn't want kids. She didn't just mean not now, but not ever. She talked a lot about overpopulation or climate change or whatever, but I was just immediately depressed. I've always wanted to be a dad. My dad was a piece of crap, and this is something I've wanted to do ever since I was still a kid myself. When she finished talking, I told her it was over. She started crying and I was already crying, but F. If she doesn't want the same thing I do for the future, what else can I do? She said she's been thinking this way for years and the bug was the last straw. I'm not going to wait around and hope she changes her mind when she might not. So I moved out and moved in with my best friend Ryan. We've been friends forever, like we bonded over Pokemon cards at the playground kind of thing. He's basically my brother and his mom was my extra mom since I didn't have much at home growing up. I was in a hurry to move out, so I didn't take much stuff with me, and then I didn't want to go back to the apartment and see Cassie, so Ryan was doing the good friend thing and going to get stuff for me whenever I needed it. At least, that's what I thought he was doing. Yesterday would have been me and Cassie's 6th anniversary, and it was really rough for me, so I told Ryan I didn't want to be alone and wanted to hang out and game all day with him. He agreed and everything, but he was kind of distracted on his phone a lot, and after a couple of hours, he said something came up and just left me there alone. It got dark. I'm not ashamed to say I cried. There were reasons I didn't want to be alone that day. Almost midnight last night, Ryan finally came home and was acting weird, so I asked what was up. I thought maybe his mom was sick or something. She's a teacher at a school that just reopened. But no, Ryan sits me down and tells me he's moving out. He's been secretly dating Cassie since a few weeks after we split. He says they're in love already and that she needs him more than I do. So he's moving into the apartment with her and leaving me here alone to rot. I don't even know how the F to process this. I don't know which one of them has broken me more. To make things worse, I messaged some of our other friends this morning to tell them what's up and they already knew. When I got upset, they all said it was no big deal because I'm the one who broke up with Cassie. Where do I even go from here? I can't talk to my friends, my ex broke my heart, my best friend stomped on it, and the closest thing I have to family is gone because they were his family too. I'm lost and I don't know where else to turn. Edit. Bigger crap to worry about than my broken heart, I guess. Ryan texted me. I'm about to be homeless during lockdown. So now let's take a look at some community comments to see what they recommend OP, and then we'll move on with the update to see what he did. Igor Baumhubner said, based on your edit, dude, I am so sorry. I wish I had advice, but I don't. All I can say is, I'm sorry. And to this, Jar of Peanuts adds, the fact I can give you OP is that this is clearly a deep rut in your life that you cannot change. What you do have control over is how mother effing hard you come back into society. Deeply think about yourself before anyone. Not trying to sound narcissistic here, just self-development. Else, and don't let anyone ever get in your way or make you feel like that again. It's only up from here, just stay positive. Easier said than done. It will be a challenge, but that's how you become your strongest self. Then Lavanya237 says, based on your edit, like others have said, you should focus on getting your housing situation sorted. Far away from these people, block them from your phone and focus on getting a place to live. Right now, you're pretty wounded and you need to recoup and heal. Stay away from them. Tend to your wounds. Treat yourself as something you care deeply about, because these a-holes aren't doing it for you. Take it one day at a time. Then the last base lobe says, cut contact with all of them. None of them are even considering your feelings in all of this. And it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Cassie and Ryan were already hooking up and she just made up the not wanting kids thing suddenly as a way to push you into breaking up with her. Counseling would be a good idea. Also, since there is nothing good tying you to where you are anymore, it would be a perfect time to look into places you have always wanted to go and go to one of them and totally start over. Build a new life in a new place and meet new people who actually consider your feelings important. Get away from everything and everyone who reminds you of these backstabbing a-holes. And finally, Tambam Wam says, you have recourse about getting kicked out. I tell him he needs to go through the full eviction procedure, minimum of a month. And I'm sorry, bud, but they were crossing lines with each other way before you broke up, and you need to expose the F out of this. Well, there's a lot of sound advice about OP taking care of himself and putting himself back together to keep moving. And so now, let's continue with the update. I kind of debated if I'd post an update on this or not. It's been a few weeks and some stuff has happened, but as the post blew up, I got a good number of really crappy comments that informed me I was a worthless piece of crap, that I should beat up my ex-girlfriend, or alternately, that I was probably already some kind of horrible abuser who hated her and wanted to control her body. I also got a ton of love, support, PMs offering connections on housing, and more. But being I was already in a dark and desperate place, those other comments really twisted the knife. I had to spend some time away, not just fixing my crap, but also avoiding that stuff. Because it was really not making me want to move forward. For anyone who's reading this while in the middle of a situation, wondering if you should post your story, my advice is, don't. Wait until you have some distance, or it's just going to make things worse. One thing I want to clarify here, since a few people swung for the fences based on what I posted, I don't hate Cassie. I don't think she shouldn't move on. I don't blame her for dating someone else after I broke up with her. I do have a lot of anger still thinking about this. All that anger is at Ryan. That's it. Ryan is the one who lied to me and went behind my back, not Cassie. My post pretty clearly stated that I think Cassie is an awesome human being. Still think so, period. We just wanted different things. So, actual updates. Shortly after I posted, Ryan texted me to say he'd planned to give me a month to find somewhere else to live, but since I couldn't be happy for them, he wanted me out by Friday. Looking back on it, I kinda think this was his plan all along. Cassie's parents owned the apartment I lived in with her, so we paid bills on it but not rent. Ryan's apartment was expensive, and his parents still paid some of his bills there, so I suspect he was looking for an excuse to break his lease and get in on that free rent instead. But I have a place to live now. Reddit helped me out after all, in a weird way. A couple days after I posted, this guy TJ hit me up on Facebook, hey TJ, with the link to my post asking if it was me. TJ and I weren't close friends before all this, but he recognized some of the details. Skipping some back and forth, it turns out Ryan lied to all our mutual friends about the situation. Apparently, he hooked up with Cassie the first time about a week after we split up. He asked some of our friends what to do, and they all told him to make sure I was cool first thing. He then told them he had talked to me and that I was happy for him. So when I started freaking out a couple of months later, My friends all thought I was going crazy out of nowhere over something I'd known about for months. Once they found out what really happened, I got a lot of apology texts. Some of them I've accepted, some are still on red. A couple of guys offered me crash space or help moving, and I wound up staying with TJ, but only till I could find somewhere else. My days of living in places without my name on the lease are over. Learned my lesson there. I found a roommate looking for a place through Craigslist and we signed the lease last week. Moving from TJ's happens this weekend. Ryan is blocked out of my life. I probably forgot some of my stuff at either his place or Cassie's, but it's whatever. I can get new stuff. I can get new friends. More than anything else, this situation made me realize the importance of having stable, independent housing and not counting on anyone else to do the right thing by me. I have to have my own back in life, not rely on others. That's about all I've got. It's nothing dramatic, I guess. No one was hit by a car, got pregnant, or turned out to be cheating. But I've never been so glad to have a roof over my head and a bed to come back to. I'm going to keep going from here, keep working on life, and I'm sure as hell going to be taking a break from the dating front. That's all there is to do. Well, OP, it's really good that you've been able to sort this thing out. Of course, I'm sure it still stings a little bit what your ex-friend Ryan did, but like you say, you just gotta keep moving forward, and that's all there is to do. So here's hoping the best for you, man. And so, we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you like it. If you did, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe. And of course, don't forget about my other channel, Lost Genre IATA Daily. There's a link in the description. And the Lost Genre subreddit, where you can share your stories or cross-post stories from other subs. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.